We're very happy to have this next artist as a guest on our show. She's danced for some incredible entertainers throughout her career, including Ricky Martin, Babyface, Deborah Cox, Michael Jackson, and of course her long-standing tenure with Janet Jackson. Nikki Pantenburg, a.k.a. Nicole Edmonds. Welcome to the Kelly Alexander Show.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We are so happy to have you on the show, especially because there's a lot of people, I think, that have been waiting to hear from you because it's been a minute since we've heard from you. So we're very happy to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored. Thank you.
So before we get going into your life with Janet, if we can call you that or call it that, I wanted to start off by asking how you actually started in dance as a kid.
Oh, wow. Well, I started when I was 3. I guess my mom noticed that I used to love dancing around the house and put me in classes. So I was doing ballet and tap, and as I grew up, I was doing jazz and hip hop, and I just enjoyed it so much that I continued with my dancing. I went through dance school, different dance schools, and I was involved in a lot of competing dance teams and so on and so forth. And by the time I was 9, I was with a dance team that we used to do gigs for, like Sally Struthers and, Merv Griffin and stuff like that. So we used to get paid to go and dance, to do charity shows and TV shows and things like that. And I just really enjoyed it. It was a passion of mine, and I just wanted to be there all the time in a dance studio. So my mom was so great, and she drove me everywhere from Orange County to Los Angeles to Downey, everywhere, so I could learn from the best and take classes from the best. And it paid off when I got older, and I got an agent, and then the rest is history. I was able to make a career out of it, and had a great one. That's that.
Now, when you were growing up, who would you say was like a dancer or a choreographer that you looked up to the most? Like, who was your Michael Jordan kind of thing?
I think I didn't really know choreographers and, dancers when I was little. I think I would just kind of, I loved watching Michael Jackson dance, but I had no clue who was behind it all, until I got older. But, I was able later on to work with Travis Payne, and I just enjoyed taking from a bunch of different choreographers and learning my way through it. So I didn't really have, as a dancer, I just enjoyed dancing so much. It didn't matter who, what, I just wanted to do it.
What would you consider your first big break?
Let's see, my first big break, which started kind of everything as far as getting an agent, a dancing agent and everything, was Johnny Gill. I was asked to do a tour with him. There was a tour called the Triple Threat Tour, and it had Keith Sweat, Johnny Gill, and Belle Biv DeVoe. And Johnny Gill was looking for dancers, and I happened to be at the right time, place at the right time. I was asked to do it, and I was 17 at the time. So I had to have a guardian on the road with me, but that was my big break. And then after that came Janet, and Janet was my biggest,
Now,
so.
If I've done the math correctly, I think both you and Kelly sort of started dancing for Janet around 93. How did you actually get that job? Like, how did it come to you, or how did you audition for it?
Well, we got a call from the agency and said they're throwing a big audition for Janet. It was going to be huge because not only were they doing it in Los Angeles, they were doing it in other cities as well. I actually was a little intimidated, and I wasn't sure if I was even going to go because I was actually working on that day. I had another job that I was doing that I had to be at. And I was kind of contemplating, well, do I go? I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people. It's just kind of one of those things. And then my mom was like, no, you better go, give it a shot. So I went and ended up being asked to stay, because they have their little process of auditions. You usually go, you learn a number that they teach you, and then they do their cuts. And then, the next group stays, and then they do another cut. And so I actually made it through, the first day, but the initial audition was kind of like a 4 or 5 day process. And they had us come in and audition at least 3 or 4 times. They even had an interview process where we came in and we met Janet and Renee at the time, and they interviewed us. They wanted to make sure that they were, picking the right people, I guess, for a huge tour, as we did. So the process was, it was a little bit stressful, I guess. But at the end of the day, it made it so much, such a great surprise when, I finally got the call from my agent. I was actually at the nail salon getting my nails done. And she called and said, are you sitting down? And she told me I got the job. And I don't know what I did, but I think I had a big reaction because everybody was staring at me. But it just made that moment so much bigger because we had, we went through so much, so many days and so much of a process before you even were chosen. And they only chose, a few people from this huge auditions that they threw. So it was a big honor for sure.
Was that where you first met like Tina Landon and Kelly Kono? Is that and Shawnette? Was
Yes.
that sort of initial? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That was my first time dancing for Tina, actually. And she's, I have her to thank for it all because she was the one that saw me and, it was on her too, I know Janet made the final decisions, but, she had a big part of it as well.
Now, if we sort of remember back to 93, I don't know if you remember this, but I know like Janet's people put out this collection of videos from the Janet tour. And then there was like the behind the scenes part of it, which I think all the Janet fans love watching. And we saw you guys, in rehearsal and working your butts off. What do you remember the most from that time period? Like, what was it like being part of such an iconic album, which people still talk about over 20 years later?
Well, you know what? I think at the time we really didn't realize how iconic it was, until years later when you look back and you're like, oh my God, we were amongst such a great period, for dancers and everything. So we didn't really realize it in doing it. I mean, I just remember, loving going to rehearsal. I mean, it was such a, since it was a passion of mine and just, I love to perform and, it was being around the same people all the time and we all got along and it was just fun. I just remember it being fun. I was maybe 18 or 19 at the time when I started. So it was still, kind of a new thing for me. So I was just enjoying it, taking it all in. When we were rehearsing, it was long days, it was tiring, but, we would get up the next day and go at it again. But we really, just really enjoyed it. And, Janet was awesome. I mean, she just kind of took us everywhere. I mean, we got to go to Hawaii and rehearse, who does that, so we got to, enjoy a little bit of Hawaii and then work hard at the, and then she would take us on these great vacations and, we would be able to just hang and do fun stuff. So it was like we were a family. So I just remember, it feeling like a family and being a part of, I guess I knew that she was big. I knew that, it was such a big deal for us to be dancing for Janet. And so we just enjoyed it, and she was great, and she made every single day, that we were there enjoyable. So
I wanted to ask you this because I believe I asked Kelly this question or a version of it, and I wanted to get your sense from a fan standpoint, like especially fans that have been with Janet, quote unquote, for a long time, and have watched all of you that have danced with her. I feel that there is a definite special chemistry that goes on between you and Tina and Kelly and Sean, especially because you guys were able to carry over for this, like the Velvet Rope tour. Did you guys know that? Like, do you feel like there's just this magic between the four of you plus, adding Janet into that mix?
Like I said, it's I feel it now. We were very close when we were together and dancing together. Plus, we Kelly and I were roommates with Tina. We all lived together amongst both tours, so we were together a lot, and we worked together not just on Janet videos and tours and things like that, but it kind of trickled into other things when Janet wasn't doing anything, and we were working on other stuff, Ricky Martin or TV shows here and there, a little video for Deborah Cox, or, we all kind of stayed together. And so I think that just brought us closer together. And like I said, it was like family, so I guess now we feel when we've come together, we've kind of reached out to each other, and we've been getting together, and, we do feel that magic now. It's like, it was an awesome feeling, but we didn't really know it was happening at the time. We were just kind of being a family and being close and working together, and we just liked being around each other. So, but now it's like, when you look back and you're like, oh, what memories we have, it's like, it does become magical. We actually were just all together. Unfortunately, Kelly couldn't make it, but we just did, Tina, myself, and Shawnette, we did a class where we taught I Get So Lonely, to raise some money for a dancer who is fighting lupus. And so many people came out, and it was just, we haven't danced together for so long, but it was so much fun, and it just brought back so much memories. And, a lot of people came out just to learn this classic choreography that Tina did. And so it made us really happy. It made us, the magic came through, a couple days ago when we did this, for sure.
Was it when you guys the three of you got together and did that choreography together, did it come right back, or did it take a minute to get your vibe down?
It took a minute, because we had to kind of relearn it off of some of the videos that we have. And, but once we got it, then it came back, and the feelings came back, and the movement came back. And I was just, when we were dancing together, it just felt so good, because, even though we haven't danced together for a long time, when we did get it and we were dancing together, we were still very together. That was one thing that Tina, her choreography, she worked us so hard that we all just looked so in unison all the time. So it was just funny to kind of come back to it, and as we're doing it, we're just looking at it like, wow, we still look really good together. We still feed off of each other, we still watch each other, so everybody looks the same. So I think sometimes dancers don't necessarily look at those details, but we were taught to do that. So it was just fun to see that again.
Now, as we talked about off the top, you danced on the Janet album tour and also on the Velvet Rope tour. I'm sure both of them are very special to you, but if you had to pick which tour, are sort of sat with you the best, or which one were you the happiest to be a part of?
Oh, goodness. That's a hard one, because I mean, both tours were so great to be a part of. I'm going to say Velvet Rope. I think, again, it's so hard. I mean, I don't even know if I'm choosing correctly, but, I think, both of those tours were so great. I mean, the people were so great. I'm going to say Velvet Rope, because I really liked some of the things that we, were able to incorporate in the, the tour itself, the big storybook that opens, and, it was just like, I Get Lonely was part of that. There was some great moments that we were able to kind of include. So additionally to the Janet stuff, Janet, for me, that was the, being so young and being able to tour and being a part of something like that, you just, I don't know, you're on cloud nine, as a dancer, that's what you hope for. That's what dancers strive to actually, be able to dance for someone like that. And then the Velvet Rope, it kind of settles in a little bit, and you're like, okay, this is, I like this, you know what I mean? This is fun. I can do this now. I should start saving some money. So, it's like, you don't go and spend it all. I think when you're 19 and you're on the road and you're making money and you're, like, oh, let's go shopping. You're like, oh gosh, I need to, reel it back in a little bit on the second. So it was thankful to have the chance to do that again was awesome.
Speaking of being on the road, what was the best part and the worst part of being on tour? Especially because I know the Janet tour went on for a long time. Like it was you. Right. I think you actually went into 3 calendar years, if I've done the math correctly. And obviously the Velvet Rope was a fair chunk of your time too. So what's the best and worst part of being on the road?
I think the best part is, being able to travel and to see the world, to be able to meet other people, to see different countries, to be around, each other and a family and, doing something you love to do. I mean, that's the best part, I think, about that. But the worst part is, not being home and being able to spend time with your, immediate family. And, there's, hard to have a relationship when you're on the road. You don't get to see each other, missing holidays, sometimes missing birthdays. That was kind of hard, but we still have your other family, and you still have people there for you. It's just, you get homesick. So I think that's the worst part about it.
I actually asked this of Tina a while ago, and I'll get your take on it. She said that when she comes off tour, it takes her like a minute to sort of reorient herself to actually being home and being part of like her regular family and regular life, because you're just so used to traveling out of a suitcase. And like you said, you've got your road family. Did it take you a bit of time to sort of, no matter which tour you were on, to sort of come back down to earth a little bit?
Yeah, it does. It does. You have to, it takes a minute to snap back into reality, because, it's like you're living a fantasy world, on tour, and, everything's paid for. You're traveling here, and we were traveling with Janet. So, we had it good, so when you come back and you're, as a dancer, you're still trying, you still got to work. You still got to think of, well, what's my next gig going to be, because once that tour ends, that's it. You don't know if you're going to be going on to the next one, or you don't know what other job. So it's back to auditioning. It's back to, trying to get that next job. So your reality kicks in, and it is a little hard to kind of, you've had such a good run, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, that's it. What do I need to do? So it does take a minute to but you got to fight, you got to fight, and you got to do it, so that you can keep going, because if you don't, then, you might just kind of sit down and, get depressed, because you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I like this. I like being on the road and being around friends and performing, and, but, it was hard for me. I was kind of on the first tour when I got back. That's when I actually moved out of my family home, and I actually moved in with Tina. So that was kind of a transition for me as well. And then, we lived together for a long time, and then, then the Velvet Rope tour came. And then after we came back from the second tour, I was ready to buy a house. And, so it was kind of, there are little transitions, that you do when you come back, not really knowing what your next job is going to be, because it could have been another tour, which it was for me, because I went on to do Ricky Martin. So, it just takes a minute to adjust to real life.
Now, you've danced with some incredible artists, as we mentioned off the top, like you just mentioned, Ricky Martin. I know you did some work with Michael Jackson, Deborah Cox, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What makes Janet different from everyone else? Or is there not a difference? But I feel like there probably is. There's a big difference for sure. I mean, Janet, from day one, there's a different feeling you get with Janet. We, as a dancer, we felt she just kind of made us feel so important. She, how do you explain? We were the kids, you know what I mean? And she made us important, I think. And she was so generous, in doing all the things that she does over and beyond just working for Janet. I mean, taking us on trips and even on the road, we would go out, and, she would just always have us with her. Not every artist does that. Not every artist is so personal like Janet. She was cool. She would, it was fun to hang out with her. She was silly, we could play games, we, do sleepovers in the hotel rooms. We just don't get that from every artist. Not every artist is that personable. And, I think, and also being with Janet on the road is different than when you're working at home with an artist that you don't really get to spend that much time with. You only see them at rehearsal and maybe for that gig. But it's a different
dynamic when you're actually on the road and become a family for so long. So she's just special. She's just so sweet, and she treated everybody with, you know, respect and love, and, you know, and she made everybody feel important. So that's the difference, I think.
I wanted to get you to describe in one word, or the first word that comes to mind when I say some names to you. So I'm going to start. I'm going to start with who I think is one of your best buddies, Kelly Kono.
Oh God, one word. How do you sum this up? She's joy. Joy.
Shawnette Hurd.
Silly.
Omar Lopez.
Oh gosh. Omar. I want to say grungy. Omar.
That's awesome.
I love
Omar. Tish Oliver.
Oh, Tish is just, I want to say silly for her too, because she just always made me laugh. She was great.
And Tice DiOrio.
Tice, everybody, it's like whenever I hear those names, I just want to say silly, because everybody was so silly and so funny and you know, just so much fun to be around. And gosh, I want to say silly as well, because he always made me laugh. Always.
I have to ask about Tina because, well, I'm not going to make you to describe the first word, but I wanted to say this. When I was doing some research about you and for us to do this interview today, I actually came upon a Facebook post that you tagged Tina in like several months back. And you had a link to Janet's That's the Way Love Goes. And then you said, the start of a blessed and fulfilling a dancing career. Thanks, Tina Landon, for seeing something in this little girl. What does Tina Landon mean to you?
Tina, to me, I feel that Tina kind of, you know, it was a start of a career for me. Like I said, Janet was the biggest break I think I had in my dancing career, and started a 10-year run, a career in dance that, you know, not all dancers can say they've had. It's a struggle all the time. But because of Tina and because of our friendship, I was able to keep a career, you know, a consecutive career with dancing, because she just kind of took me, and, you know, whenever she was doing a gig or, you know, anything that she was working on, you know, she would always bring me in, as well as Kelly, I think, and as well as Shawnette, and, you know, and whenever she could, and she had that authority to do so, she would always make sure we were right there with her, and she kept me working and working and working. So Tina, just to me, you know, I owe her that, you know, I owe her everything, because she kept me working in this stressful and, you know, career that, you know, I chose to do, but it was because of her that, you know, I was able to keep it consistent, you know. Of course, I've worked with other choreographers, but I think Tina probably was the one choreographer I worked with the most. And she was kind of like my big sister. You know, I lived with her. You know, she kind of taught me, you know, how to be on my own, and I learned a lot of things from her. You know, just being on my own, because I went from my parents' house to living with her and being on my own, and so I learned a lot from her. She's a smart girl, that one.
Now, as you and I actually record this interview today, Janet's going to be performing her first tour date for her brand new Unbreakable tour, which will, you know, kick off in Vancouver in actually a couple hours. As someone who has been in this position where you have been on opening night with Janet for the Janet tour, the Velvet Rope tour, what are some of the new dancers feeling right now, and what do you remember the most about like your first tour dates like with Janet?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm sure they're excited. I'm sure, you know, they've got butterflies. You know, you work and work and work so hard up until this moment. You know, you put in months of rehearsals, hours of rehearsal, you know, and finally it all comes together. It's like, you know, it's a huge rush. So I do remember, you know, that feeling of just, you know, your hard work is now you get to show it, you know, now you get to perform for the world in a sense. But I'm sure they're so excited and they, you know, it's a long time coming, you know. it's always a great feeling. And I don't know if that feeling ever really goes away, because every time you perform in a different city, you always get those butterflies. You always get that rush right before you go on stage. And that is something that I miss, because that is, to perform for thousands of people, and, having everybody out there, screaming and rooting for you. And, it's like, because we felt the love from the fans as well, even though they're huge Janet fans, they were also huge dancing fans, so they're out there watching the dancers as well. So it just all comes together, and you can't really describe that feeling. It's until you're up there and you see it, and you feel it. But I'm sure they're excited for sure.
I asked this of the other dancers, and I wanted to get your take too, on the dance that you wanted to bash your head in the most when you were learning it. Because first of all, I have to say this, and I know that that my Janet fans that listen to this show will agree with me when I say that you are just like, you're such a fluid dancer. You're so like, and all the different styles that you do, and maybe it's because you mentioned you did all those different styles when you were growing up. You're just so fluid, right? So you just look like you're walking on air when you're dancing. But which choreography did you want to rip your hair out, or was it all good for you?
Oh no, Black Cat. When we performed Black Cat, I wanted to rip my hair out. That one was really hard and physically hard. So, that was the one for me. That was it for me. I mean, I love everything else, but when we're doing jumps and it takes a lot out of you. And so that the Black Cat for me, for sure.
And did you guys enjoy Throb as much as we all did with regards to the Velvet Rope tour? Because, and anybody who got the DVD for the HBO special, it just looked like you guys were having so much fun doing that freestyle moment. Was that as much fun as we thought it was?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was definitely fun. Even fun to watch, everybody else go up there and do a solo. You know what I mean? It was always, what are they going to do tonight? So it was always fun. Definitely.
I'm not sure when the last time it was that you actually spoke to Janet, but if you could actually speak to her today as she sort of embarks on this new tour and the album's coming soon, what would you want to say to her?
Oh gosh, I would want to say I wish you luck. And it's so nice that she's back. I'm so excited. I'm going to go see the show because I'd like to see it. I want to see. I want to see her succeed again. You know what I mean? I want her. To be on top of the world again. So I would just say good luck. I love you and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Nikki. And I know that people can actually follow you on Instagram, which is Nicole Edmonds 14. And on behalf of all the Janet fans, if I can put them on my shoulders for just a second, I want to say thank you because we really appreciate everything that you've done over the years, doing such a great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That is Nikki Pantenburg, again, a.k.a. Nicole Edmonds. And again, follow her on Instagram, Nicole Edmonds 14.